In this video, I will show you how to set up a Facebook ads campaign in 2023 for e-commerce sales. Now, I've been running ads on Facebook now for over 10 years, managing over $100 million in ad spend, spending most of my time working in advertising agencies, with my former role being the VP of Paid Social Activation at Brain Labs, which is a global ad agency. And in the last 10 years, I've gotten the opportunity to work with clients like Walmart, Cartier, Farfetch, a lot of very well recognized brands, but also a lot of smaller brands, mid-market and startup. So the things that I'm gonna walk you through today are gonna help you no matter at what stage that you are at your journey. And I actually have teed up a sample campaign that we're gonna use to build our campaign so it could be easy to sort of follow along. But before we get into that, I wanna briefly give you a tour of the Facebook Ads Manager. Now, if you're not familiar, where you wanna go first is type in business.facebook.com/ads manager. And there's a lot of things that you need to do before you actually set up a campaign and are ready to go. But even if you haven't done those things, you could still follow along from this video and learn a ton. So a few prerequisites: it's creating a Facebook ad account, it's linking your ad account to your organic Facebook profile or your Instagram handle, setting up a payment method like a credit or a debit card, creating a pixel, and a few other things that you're gonna wanna do before you're actually able to run campaigns. But again, you can follow along in this video even if you haven't done those things yet. Now, the Facebook Ads Manager has three fundamental levels. The first one is the campaign level, and that is what you're seeing right here. Now, within a campaign, you have what's called ad sets, which is essentially your audiences. So I can click into one of these campaigns and I could see the different audiences that are nested within that actual campaign. And then within each one of these ad sets or audiences, you have different ads that live within there. So if you notice, it's a three-level structure, and that's generally the way that the Ads Manager is broken up. Now, we're gonna go into a lot of depth in the coming couple of minutes of what you're gonna be doing in these different places, but what you just need to understand is that fundamentally, at a campaign level, you're controlling the objective of the campaign, you're setting the lifetime budget of the campaign, where at the ad set level, that's where you're gonna get really into the nitty gritty of the targeting. And then lastly, at the ad level, that's where we're gonna do all of the things with the creative, the copy, the image, the video, the assets that your end users or potential customers are actually gonna be seeing. So we're gonna get all into that. But before we do that, I actually wanna give you a quick brief that we can use to build our campaign and sort of follow along. So for this example, we're gonna use the brand Cartier, which was a former client of mine when I was the director of paid social advertising at E-Comm. And this is the scenario that they're in right now, which is why they need to run a Facebook ads campaign. They have this collection called Pasha, and it's a collection that's been around for quite some time. However, what they're trying to do is sort of revamp the brand and make it a little bit more appealing to younger audiences, because the average purchaser of a Cartier product tends to skew a little bit older. So they want to make this more appealing, and they have this beautiful campaign that they did, pulling in, influencers that they felt were very authentic and could represent the brand well. And this is an example of one of the watches, but there's many watches that they have. Now, the brief, these are the key details, is that they're trying to generate sales online for the Pasha collection. Their target audiences is roughly 25 to 34. All genders, and they're running ads in the US market. And they said, hey, we can run this campaign for 2 months and we have $50,000 to run it. Now, it's important to be mindful that this is not a cheap product. The Cartier products tend to start around $5,000 and above, and Pasha, the Cartier, tends to start at that price level. So that's something that to keep in mind, and I'll explain a little bit more why that matters when we're setting up the targeting within the Facebook ads campaign. Now, some assets that we have some great static images that we're able to use for this campaign. And as you can see on the left, we have more of that branding lifestyle kind of feel. And on the right-hand side, we have more of those product shots that bring the Pasha watch and is more focused on the product itself than the lifestyle, although it still has some essence of lifestyle in the way that it was shot. Great, and we also have some copy along that we're gonna be able to use for this campaign. So now that we have this, we can go ahead and jump into the Facebook Ads UI and start to build out our Facebook Ads campaign. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is, again, visit business.facebook.com/ads manager. And once you're at this screen, you're gonna hit create campaign. One thing that's super important to note is that you want to create different campaigns based on fundamentally the types of objective that you're running, and also if you want to bifurcate between prospecting, so talking to cold audiences that don't know who your brand is, versus retargeting. So at a very simple level, that's one reason you would create different campaigns. Now, as you can see here, there's a few different objectives that we have. For 99% of the people watching this video, you're going to want to go to the sales objective. A lot of the other objectives are pretty self-explanatory. So we are trying to generate sales, and we're trying to do that online through our e-com store. And of course, I don't actually have access anymore to the Cartier Facebook page, Instagram page, or Pixel. So I'm using that as an example, but some of the assets you're going to see connected to this ad account are my personal assets. Okay, so we're going to hit continue, and then we are going to have the option to type in a campaign name. I think this is a very important thing that most people sort of take for granted, and what ends up happening is when they end up building a ton of campaigns, it gets very confusing on what is what. So I like to personally spend a little bit of time making sure that I have a very descriptive campaign name, and I'm going to say conversions. So at least a few details. I know what year it is. I know it's prospecting. It's not a retargeting campaign. The name of the collection, and then the type of the campaign, the type of campaign objective. Okay, so special ad categories. This is not going to be relevant to 99% of the people hopefully watching this video, but a quick explanation on this. If you're doing with anything with housing, credit, social issues, politics, there's laws in the US market that are designed for anti-discrimination. So if you're doing anything that's related to that, please take a look at this and make sure you have the right bucket checked off. So campaign details, we're going to be buying on auction. There is a way to buy ads where it's reach and frequency, but for 99% of the people watching this, it's not going to be relevant. That's more relevant for a big brand like Procter & Gamble that's trying to, spend as much money as possible and scale their campaigns. So we have campaign objective is sales. Catalog plus, this is related if you have many products and you have a product catalog connected. Let's say if you're using Shopify to the Shopify store, there's a way that you can advertise. It's a little bit more advanced, but what's important to note is that that becomes very relevant if you have a lot of products. If you don't have that many products, might not be relevant for you. So with this example, we're just going to do a regular sales campaign that's optimized for conversions, so we're not going to touch that. We also have the option here at the campaign level to set up a lifetime budget. So we did create a lifetime spending limit for this account. So we're going to just type that in. And that ensures that no matter what budgets we put at the audience level, we never go over this limit, which is very important because sometimes mistakes are made and you can end up costing yourself a lot of money. The other thing that's relevant here is campaign what was previously called campaign budget optimization. Now it's called advantage campaign budget. All this means is that if I turn it on and I have more than one audience, if audience B is performing better than audience A, budget dynamically will move from audience A into audience B. That's all that means. It means the money, the overall campaign budget is going to dynamically be optimized across any audience in your campaign. And this is great to have on 99% of the time. Now for this example, I'm only going to build one audience, so it's not going to be relevant. But if you have multiple audiences that you're building against, I recommend that you have it on unless there's a particular reason that you're, maybe that you want to test these two different audiences and have the same amount of money to be able to equally see what performs better. Okay, so this is all we're going to do for the most part at the campaign level. Now we're going to go down to the ad set level where we're going to spend most of our time. So remember, for this audience, we're trying to get them to go to the website and buy stuff. I'm actually going to leave the ad set name blank here. We'll just go right into it. There's a few different ways that campaigns on Facebook, and when I say Facebook, I'm talking about the Meta ecosystem. So that includes Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp. There's a few different places that you can actually optimize for a conversion goal. And of course, website is what it defaults to, but just be aware that there's multiple places. If you have apps, you can drive conversions in apps. If you have a website, e-com business model, and you have an app where people can buy, you can also give the algorithm the opportunity to choose where it wants to optimize. And there's other places, but again, for this is a regular website e-com experience, so we're just gonna leave it at website. The next part is choosing your pixel. Normally, if I was working with Cartier still, it would say Cartier and I'd be able to pick their pixel. I don't have their pixel, so I'm just gonna pick mine for this example. And then the next thing is choosing what the conversion event is. So this is the work that's done when you set up your ad account. You create a pixel, which is a piece of code that you put on the website, and that it allows Facebook to communicate with the website. So in this example, and actually I think I need to remove my ad blocker for a second so that we can actually see this. So I'm gonna pause my ad blocking. I'm gonna reset this, and now what you're seeing here is the Facebook Pixel Helper. This is a Chrome extension that shows you if the Facebook Pixel is being used on a website, and it gives you information to what types of events are being tagged. So right here, Facebook knows that this is the Cartier Pixel, and it's registering a page view. And what you'll see is that if I click on a product, some of this information is going to change. So now it's still capturing the pixel, but now it's saying view content, which this is a standard event that's used to identify an important page. And if I click add to shopping bag, what you'll notice is that now we have all those pixels plus add to cart. So this is how Facebook knows if someone is going to buy from you. And this is very important when you're choosing a conversion event, is that you want to choose the most optimal one. Now, 99% of the time, I'm kidding, 95% of the time, you want to do purchase. You want to optimize for someone that added a product to cart and then bought it, meaning they put in their payment method and completed a checkout. There is some occasions, however, where that actually might not make sense. There is some occasions where you want to do add to cart. I would actually argue that this is one of those occasions, because when you have a high ticket product that's $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, what you'll tend to see is a lot of people will, when they see an ad for a product in that price range, they'll want to learn more, but they're not always going to buy it online. So this is actually a good situation where you would want to do an A/B test to see if it's optimal to optimize for purchases or add to cart. However, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to leave it at purchase. And again, don't worry about the prompt because this is not the Cartier Pixel. So we're going to move on from here. Dynamic creative, this is an advanced functionality that we won't talk about in this video, but this is something that you might want to explore later on once your Facebook ads program is a little bit more mature. Okay, so now we come down to the section where we put in budgets and schedule. So this is going to actually start running, we said February, and we're going to put an end date of the end of March. And then timelines, I usually, as a rule of thumb, like to launch things early in the morning. Doesn't make a massive difference, although in some cases I've seen a benefit, but at this point I'm convinced this is more personal preference. We're not going to do a daily budget for this campaign. We're just going to do lifetime budget, and we're going to say $50,000. So as you can see on the right hand side, as we start adding information, this is going to continue to dynamically change depending on the size of the audience. I'm getting prompt right now because normally in this ad account, I don't spend $50,000 on a campaign. So Facebook's recognizing, oh, wow, you're spending a crazy amount of money, and it's trying to help me understand if this is potentially a mistake. All right, so I'm going to keep scrolling down, and you have the option with Facebook ads, if you, for some reason you needed to, you can run ads at a specific time of the day or specific days of the week. I usually recommend not doing that and just letting the algorithm dynamically spend your money whenever it sees opportunity. We're going to keep scrolling down, and this is where we're going to get to the fun part, the audience section. So if we quickly pull back to some of the details around the audience, we said, hey, we want them to be ages 25 to 34. Gender is irrelevant as long as they have money. That's important. And it's going to be in the US market. So now this is where we want to workshop through this a little bit, because a $6,500 watch is not something everyone's going to be able to afford. Now, if you talk to Facebook, they would tell you, hey, just make your audiences as broad as possible. The algorithm would figure it out. I particularly don't trust that strategy, because if it was that simple, everybody can just set up the most basic targeting and their e-comm performance would be through the roof. which is usually not the case. So you do want to do some sort of strategy around this. Now, first thing and foremost, this is running the US market, which is, my account is already defaulting to that, so that's great. Ages, I'm going to change this. Again, don't know many 18-year-olds that can afford $6,000 to $7,000 watches, so I'm going to narrow this down, get the right age ranges in there. And as you can see on the right-hand side, for the US market, there's about 54 million to 63 million people that fit this criteria. If I was to run the campaign like this, yes, it is possible for the Facebook algorithm, as it starts getting some people converting, it's going to figure out who's the right audience and it'll sort of optimize. But this is a crazy big audience, and it might spend a lot of money before it gets enough conversions to figure out who that audience is, which this is why you want to start to narrow down your audience. This limit is way too high. However, we don't want to get too restrictive to the point that our campaign audience is so small that we end up paying a really high cost just to get in front of these people. And then once we get some sales, that audience pool is too small and becomes too saturated. So we are going to do some detailed targeting here, which is the main way to do targeting in terms of demographic, interests, and behaviors. Now, there is a more advanced way to run ads, which is using lookalike audiences. For this example, we're not going to use that. However, that is a more sophisticated strategy. For this example, I'm going to do detailed targeting because 99% of the people that are starting off are probably not going to have customer data to be able to create those audiences. But later on, as you get a ton of sales, you will definitely be able to do that. And there's a lot of videos on my page that are going to help you with that. Also, I have a course, by the way, called Hypergrowth Ads that goes really advanced into all things Facebook ads and has dedicated videos to talk about how you can scale with lookalike audiences. There's a ton of great insights into that, so make sure to check that out. I'll put a link below in this video and you can check it out. Anyways, back to this video. Okay, so this is how I'm going to go about targeting this audience. First, I'm going to start with people who like Cartier. So I'm going to type in Cartier as an interest. On the right-hand side here, you're going to notice sometimes they'll say demographics or employer. So just make sure that for this example and the context of this, that we make sure whatever matches is interest. So there is about 41 million people to 49 million people interested in Cartier. So that's great. I'm going to start with the people that already have an interest in that. Now, ideally, if Cartier was still my client, I would want to take their existing customer list and I would actually want to exclude that audience. So I was making sure I was bringing in a net new audience, ideally. And there's actually a way to do this where we can say exclude down here, and we could upload a CRM list to exclude those existing customers. Now, as soon as I type in Cartier, one of the great things I like about the Facebook ad set level targeting is that you can get some suggestions just based off of one interest that you put in. I usually recommend putting in a couple, maybe 3 to 5, but there's so much data around Cartier that Facebook can figure out, okay, Tiffany's is relevant. People that might be interested in, let me see. As you can see, that's pretty broad. So I'm going to actually be a little bit more specific and say, all right, if somebody likes Cartier, Tiffany's, I think that's a good example. What is another good brand? If you have any ideas as you're watching this video, make sure to drop it in the comments and I'll make sure to remember it for next time. I feel like Rolex is a little too broad, so I'm not going to include them. Yes, Van Cleef and Arpels. I don't know if I said that right, but this is actually another one of the clients that was part of the parent company of Cartier called Richemont, which that was actually my client. Okay, David Yurman. I'm going to add David in there. All right, I think this is decent enough right now. So let's take a break here and look at the size of the audience. Right now, this audience is between 13 million to 16 million. And by the way, as I add every additional audience in here, I'm gonna say also Harry Winston. What you'll notice is the audience is getting bigger because what this is telling Facebook is as long as they're interested in any one of these interests, show them, they have the capability to see our ad. Now, one of the things that you might want to do here as well is narrow the audience down a little bit further by creating an and statement, by saying, hey, they're interested in one of these brands and they meet this other criteria. This could be especially powerful to be more refined with your audience. So because of the fact that I know that you need to have a lot of money to buy one of these watches because they start at $6,000 or $7,000, there's actually a way that you can target it in the US market based on zip codes, based on the people that live in the neighborhoods that are the most expensive. Now, in every market that might not be available, so maybe what you want to do is do some audience research on your own, and instead of targeting at the country level, you might want to just put the zip codes or the cities where people tend to make a little bit more money. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so it's called household income. There's top 5%, then there's top 10%. I'm gonna go all the way up to top 25%. So now what you've noticed is our 14 million audience size is now to 2.5 to 3 million. So as you can see, it's a little bit of an exercise because you want to get into the right range. I usually like to have an audience size of at least 3 to 5 million nowadays. If you would have asked me this in 2021 or 2022, I would have said a little bit smaller was fine. But now I aim for an audience size of 3 to 5 million. And in the US market, since there's like over 330 million people, it's pretty easy to achieve. Okay, so this is getting a little bit better. I'm gonna see if I can add a few more jewelry brands or luxury goods. Someone doesn't necessarily have to be interested in jewelry. If they're interested in luxury goods brands, they might be able to afford, they might have a similar taste. And again, a lot of this that I'm workshopping through right now on the spot, I usually spend a ton of time with clients figuring this stuff out before we actually get into the platform. And then we do a little bit of workshopping here. Okay, so now I have my audience between 3 million to 3.5 million. I think this is a good amount audience size, so I'm done with the targeting, and now I'm gonna continue to the other parts of the ad set level, which we're not done yet. And I'm gonna scroll down to the next portion, which is the placements. So placements is where Meta is gonna show your ads in their ecosystem. Now they're gonna default and turn on Advantage plus placements. They're gonna say it's recommended. I never do recommended placements. I always do manual, and I'll explain to you why. There are many places where your ads can be shown. As you can see here, there's the feeds, stories, reels, in-stream, search. There's a lot of places. Off the back, I'll tell you want to uncheck apps and sites because this is what's called formerly Facebook Audience Network. And this is a bunch of apps on iPhones and Androids that have nothing to do with Facebook. It's just ads that are showing up. It could be a game that somebody's playing. It could be a tool, some sort of picture crop tool somebody's using, and you get the annoying ad that pops up and you try to close it, and it's a terrible experience. And in my experience, I've never seen results come from there. And even though Facebook might only show 2% of your media spend there, it's like why spend the money? In article, I'm particularly don't have a hot POV. The other thing that's relevant here is that if you're not using a video for your campaign, some of the placements that are video specific are, even though they're checked here, you won't be able to use them. So I'll just take this out of here because for this example, we're not going to use a video. The most important ones are the Facebook and Instagram feed. That's where 80+% of the delivery is going to be. I would say probably one that I like to remove is the Facebook right-hand column just because it feels noisy and also it makes your ad really small and a lot of times it doesn't look well. However, there are ways that you can customize your ad so you can have, the one that works well for the feed, ones that work well for stories, and then ones that can also work well for the right-hand column. So you do have the ability to customize that later on. The other one that's important is stories and reels, as that's getting a ton of delivery lately. So that is the most important piece here. I know it looks like a lot, but if you just follow this step by step, you'll be saving some money and your performance will be better. Now there's more options down here that you can touch. I recommend not touching these. These are hyper specific and I rarely have seen a use case where it makes sense to use them. So I would just ignore it. And the last thing here at the bottom, it's saying optimization and delivery. So of course we're optimizing for conversions. Now some businesses actually know what they're willing to pay for a conversion. And what I would say is 99% of startups probably have no idea. and they're just willing to get as many customers as possible. If that is you, you don't have to worry about this. However, if you're more sophisticated and you've already spent hundreds and millions of dollars on Facebook ads and you have down to a science what you're willing to pay for a new customer, then this is actually where you would type it in. However, for 99% of you, not relevant. So we'll keep moving. The last thing that you have here, and this one is actually critical, is what's called the attribution setting. So I'm going to need a minute to explain this one. So the attribution setting, and I'm actually going to change it right here. I'm going to say 1 day click. If I put 1 day click, what this means is if somebody sees your ad on Facebook, that day they also purchase. So you're telling the algorithm, find me people that are the most likely to click on the ad and buy that exact same day. Now, on the contrary, if I go to 7 day click, what that's telling the algorithm is find me people who click on the ad, and as long as any time within 7 days they buy, we will then optimize our delivery for more of those people. Now, here's where it's important. When you're dealing with a buying journey that is simple, like if someone's buying something online, some makeup for like 10 bucks, 15 bucks, if they're buying something cheap or they're buying something that's simple, like, I don't know, like if you're buying a Fitbit, you know, maybe those sorts of things, actually not a Fitbit. Let's go back to the makeup. If you're buying makeup and you see an ad from a company you've bought before, you don't really need to think too much about that. So it's a good chance that if you click on the ad, within a relative short amount of time, you're going to buy. If you're buying something that's very expensive or complex, like electronics or something that costs $6,000, like the Pasha, the Cartier watch, you're going to take a lot more time to make that decision. So in these situations, we want to do 7 day click. In fact, we even have the option to do 7 day click or 1 day view. This is for people who saw our ad, and even though they didn't buy, even though they didn't click on the ad, if they bought within that, okay, I'm getting a little bit more complex on that. For 99% of you guys, you should do the 7 day click or 1 day view. Moving on from there. When do you get charged? You don't have the option to get charged when someone buys. Facebook's going to charge you every time people are seeing your ads, so that's why you're seeing that here. Another thing to note, which for 95% of you might not be relevant, you have the ability to pay extra, to pay a premium to accelerate delivery. This might only be relevant if you're spending, you know, if you start to see a great success with Facebook and you want to scale and spend more and more money, you can pay for accelerated delivery, so your ads are being seen ahead of your competitors, potentially, but you are paying more money for that. I usually recommend people do not use that unless, again, you're getting to the point that you're spending crazy amount of money and you want to make sure that all of your budget is spent. Okay, at this point, I know I've done a lot about Facebook ads from an audience ad set targeting level. So we'll take a quick second and then we're going to move on to the ad level where we're going to actually build out the asset itself that people are going to see. Okay, here we go. So now you could either click next down here or you can click right over here where it says new sales ad, and we're going to build out our ad. So we're going to go with this version of the ad right here. It's a product shot that you're seeing on the left hand side. Now I recommend that you have at least 3 to 5 ads within your campaign for your audience. In this example, we're just going to build one, but this is a process that you can replicate again and again. So ideally, you want to give the algorithm the opportunity to show any one of these ads, and whatever is getting better results, it will then dynamically put more money against that ad. Also, if you have video, use video. Video works extremely well. For this example, we're not going to use video, but if you do have it, you could also toss it in here and let it auto-optimize. Of course, I don't have access to the Cartier page, so you're just going to see this come from my Facebook page or my Instagram account. If you do not have an Instagram account, you could still run your ads on Instagram. The only difference is when someone clicks on your profile from the Instagram feed, they're not going to be able to go to your Instagram page because it doesn't exist. So keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to do create ad. If you have an existing organic post, you could also turn that into ad. I would recommend 99% of the times you do not do that because there's more customization that you can do back here. So I'm going to say manual upload. I'm gonna do a single image, and I'm gonna turn on the ad preview here. Now I'm gonna click add media to find that image, and I'm gonna upload it from my desktop. Hopefully it's sized correctly. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to take a break. Oh no, it's too small. I knew this. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Okay, this is not. I don't recommend you to do this, but for the sake of moving along, I don't want to lose my flow. I feel like, you know, we're moving and grooving here. I'm just gonna do a screenshot of that. So hopefully this is a large enough file. Okay, boom. You see, we did it. All right, this is something very interesting to note. Because your ads are going to be shown across a few different placements and environments, Facebook's going to give you a recommendation on how they should show up in those environments. So it's saying, hey, because of this size, we recommend you do just a square for the feed. However, you can keep the original size for Instagram Story and Reels because that takes up more real estate. And then it's saying for search results and instant articles, which are some other places it can find, it's saying, hey, the original is fine. So I'm gonna say, cool, I'm not gonna touch that. If it looked funky, then I would sort of come in here and play around with it. I'm gonna hit next, and now it's saying, hey, there's a few different ways that we can optimize the ad dynamically based on the user, their phone, yada, yada. So I'm gonna say, yes, turn that on, and I'll let you make that decision. One of the key ones being brightness, because some phones, the brightness setting might make the ad look really funky. So as a best practice, most times I'm just gonna turn this on. Okay, so now what we need, as you can see, as we start to edit that, you can start to see the asset come to life, the ad come to life on the right-hand side. And actually, I like this one better because you could see a person looking at you, breaking the fourth wall, which is gonna grab attention, but you also see the product. Also, that guy's a famous celebrity somewhere in China. So it's a good chance somebody might recognize him and want to learn more just because of that. So going back to some of the information we had before, there's a couple of things we're going to copy here that are going to be instrumental for our creative. The primary text is what people see at the top of the ad right here, which is very important. However, I would say more important is the headline because it has a more prominent place. And people tend to notice headlines when they're skimming through things quicker than actual post text. And then the last thing we're going to need here is the URL of where we're taking people, and it's actually to this previous page that we were at. Now, whenever you're running ads for a specific product, 99% of the time, and I know I keep using this, but the point is, most of the times, you're going to want to take them to the product page. However, if you're promoting a collection, sometimes you can benefit from just dropping them on the landing page for the collection. All right, we're gonna go back to this here, and I'm gonna say, this is my URL. Mind you, if you're running ads for multiple platforms, let's say you're doing Google ads, Microsoft ads, TikTok, other platforms, it's super important for you to use UTM tags. You can actually create those and add those here, or you can build the parameters. The UTM tags are important because if you use Google Analytics to see where people are buying from, it's going to tell you that it came from Facebook and from what specific campaign. You can watch a whole different video on that, so I'm not going to get into that. I'm not using them in this example, but you should probably be using them. Okay, so as we scroll down here, you can see that there's other destinations we could send people to. If you had an Instagram shop, you have the ability to tell the Facebook algorithm, hey, if somebody wants to buy from the website or the Instagram shop, whatever, just show it wherever people are more likely to buy. So we're just gonna leave it at website. If for whatever reason your website default link looks really funky, you have the ability to just come in here and just modify it. So you could say cartier.com/Pasha. You don't have to do that, but you have the ability. Languages, if you're running ads across multiple countries and you have one single campaign, which that might not be the best way to do it, you have the ability to have some translation of your ad. But probably for all of you guys watching this, the majority might not be relevant, so I'll skip over that. The last piece, which is critical, you could do everything right. And if you miss this part, if you don't have this part correct, you're going to be really screwed, because Facebook actually won't be able to auto-optimize your campaign long term. So you're going to lose a lot of money, or you're going to leave a lot of money on the table. I don't want you to do that. So the first thing here is that there is a process when you set up your new ad account, and you're going to have to do domain verification, which basically is your way of proving that the website you're sending people to buy from, you own. Now, you're gonna wanna watch, I actually have a video of how to do this for Shopify, but depending on what your e-com platform is, you're gonna wanna look up a video of how to do Facebook domain verification. Now, once you do that, your domain that you own is gonna show up here, and therefore it's gonna let you select, associate your pixel with that and your tracking events. If your domain is not showing up here, you've done something wrong and you need to pause and you need to, rewind and figure that out first. So super crucial to note. Also, this is something more advanced that we're not going to get to in this video. But again, if you check out my course, Hypergrowth Ads, which I'll have a link below in the description, there's a ton of more advanced things in there. Offline events is one of my favorite things, because especially this is relevant for people that are selling online and offline. Cartier has over 64 boutiques in the United States. So is it possible that somebody sees an ad online, wants to buy the watch, is like, hey, I'm not gonna dish out $7,000 online and wait for something to come in the mail and potentially be stolen. I know me, myself, I've bought, I've ordered things online where the packages have gone stolen from my apartment, from my building, and I've been super pissed. So I would never buy something that's $7,000 online. I'd walk over to the store. In fact, I live here in New York City, so there's a store that's like 5 miles away. In those situations, you still want to be able to know the effectiveness of your Facebook ads. So there's actually a way that you can sync your CRM system, your sales system, so that you can then connect back that offline information, and Facebook can tell if that person was actually exposed to one of your ads and give credit to your campaign. So for most of you guys that are watching right now, might not be relevant, but maybe you get to the point where you're making enough money, you open up a store, and then it becomes super relevant for you. Okay. That said, you can now see a preview on the right-hand side of your ad, and I should have actually shut up and kind of give you a more focused view of that. What you're seeing now is the way that your ad is going to look in the different placements within the Meta ecosystem. So how it's going to look on the feed, on Instagram, on someone's Instagram profile, which you can now see ads on someone's Instagram profile. And generally, you just want to make sure most of these things look good. Now, if something looks weird, what you want to do is come back up here, and there's actually the option for you to do some modification here. So let's say, for example, for stories and reels, which is a full screen placement, you might want to, change something with the way things are cropped. Maybe you just want to show the watch because maybe, you don't want these bars on the side or whatever it is. You can come play with those things here. You also have the ability to change the asset here. So for example, if I took an asset that was, say, longer, like this, that full screen, I could then come back here and say, all right, for my Instagram stories, I'm gonna use this different version. I don't wanna show the guy, the celebrity, influencer with the watch. I wanna show just the full watch. Now I'm getting a prompt here telling me, I'm getting a warning because it says all media, blah, blah. Anyways, irrelevant. So you have the ability to do that here. You can have a different ad that's shown on the actual feed, as you can see here, and then you could separately change the ad that's shown in one particular placement. So now we see on Instagram stories and reels down here, you're seeing a different ad. So you do have that ability if you want to be very specific with how things are showing up. Now, lastly, the last thing I'll share with you here is that you have the ability to share a preview of what your ad looks like, just in case you have maybe somebody else, your co-founder, the different people within your organization that need to see what this ad looks like before things go live. So you can make a link that's active, and it's going to be available for a period of time, and they can see the ad and they can tell you, hey, looks good, Zaryn taught you well, you got approval, so on and so forth. So they can see all of this. Okay, that said, let me see if I have any final advice for you. As you can see, we've walked generally through the process. The last thing we have here is that we just need to publish this campaign, which I'm not going to do because I don't have $50,000 to run this campaign. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's covered sort of the key pieces of building a campaign within Facebook Ads Manager. We've seen what it looks like on the campaign level. We've seen what things have looked like at an ad set level where we do most of the work. And then we've seen what things look like at the ad level. Now, I didn't go really deep into specific strategies, and I don't love doing specific strategies online because strategies should be built within the context of your business, your audiences, your products, your goals, and giving you strategic advice that's generalized, it's never gonna work. You don't want generalized strategic advice. You want specific advice for your niche, the vertical, the products, all of that. So if you have any questions, you can drop a comment below. I'm happy to answer it. Maybe consider making a future video for your scenario. But that is all I have for you so far. I hope you enjoy and much success in 2023 building Facebook ads. Peace.